And dirty feet? No.
Well. All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, friends. It has been too long since we sat here. Well, actually, we sat here a couple weeks back and filmed episode 2 of Inspired Alignment, and then we had technical issues, and it was not able to come from our mouths to your ears. And then a whole bunch of things happened, and here we are now.
Yeah.
Back to film episode 2.1, episode 3, we're not sure.
Everything in between. It will be our intention today to actually try to pick up on the first conversation that we had and where we are at right now. I think the idea for this podcast is for us to tell you how we progress and what are the things that we are learning and the challenges that we encounter and how we navigate this new way of living in community. So yeah, we're going to try to pick up the conversation between episode 1 and this one that is for us is a third. Yeah. Even though you guys had something in between, a gap in there to fill up. So we're going to try to fill up in there.
Yeah, I mean, so we've been in our house for almost 8 weeks now, I think. 7 weeks, something along those lines. And as we talked about in the first episode, a lot of things came up for us in the beginning. We had a conversation recently discovering that we both were like, this has been harder, to use that word, than either of us expected.
Yes.
We thought that somehow we're so similar and we're choosing this, and we just thought our similarities would carry us through, when in fact I think it's been our differences that have been popping up more, and we've been giving them more attention.
Yes.
And so there's been much progression in both kinds of ways. Like, things I think have been even harder in some capacities, and then we particularly are figuring out how to focus on the similarities and shift back into the flow more than we were in the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Agree?
Yeah. Yeah, I think focusing and choosing where we're going to focus has helped us move and go through the bumpy moments on the road.
Yes.
There have been many bumpy moments in our 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Mostly like after a month, I think they started showing up a little bit more. It's like those little creatures like, hey, I'm here. It's like, don't say anything. Hey, I'm here. No. Just go. Nobody wants to see you. Real little creature. Nobody wants to see you. But in living in community, sharing the space, and being every day together, it's very hard and challenging to hide those parts of ourselves that we don't want anybody to see. Mm-hmm. And in that hiding, it became like, I'm going to cave in and I'm going to go and, do my things without nobody seeing. And you go do your things without nobody seeing. But it feels yucky because like, you don't have the freedom kind of thing to be that and live with your creatures when you know that somebody else is watching them. And in reality, it's like, you don't want that person to see that creature because you are better than that kind of thing. Like, or you are supposed to be better than that, or probably the other person expects you to be better than that. And then when we sat together, it's like, let's talk about our animals and creatures in here because it's feeling yucky. It all came with beautiful vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And beautiful rawness. Is like, it felt like, through the behavior of our kids.
Yeah, what do you mean?
It was mostly our kids were showing the little creatures that we somehow have been, I will say, nurturing unconsciously. Mm-hmm. In our home. Mm-hmm. But now that we are
like that we come home.
Yes, when we were in separate spaces. But now that we are here and we notice that these creatures are somehow bugging the other person,
Yeah.
and these creatures are somebody bugging the other, like families to families.
Yeah.
The 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 reaction, the natural reaction was like, let me just go with my pack.
Yeah.
And yes, this is our creatures, and if you don't like it, that's your problem, kind of thing. These are my creatures. But that puts us apart from the intention of what we are trying to do here. And we had to get out of our caves, kind of thing, out of our packs, and talk as two conscious moms, reminding each other why we're doing what we're doing, acknowledging each other, like, this feels yucky, right? Oh yeah, I don't want to be here. Me neither. Like, I just want to be out. Yes, me too. But is that what we want? No.
Yeah.
We want to co-create, and we have to go through the bumpy
Yeah.
moments. And knowing that those creatures are part of ourselves, that we are willing to let go somehow, is like, to what extent do I need that thing
Yeah.
to remain part of me,
Yeah.
and my family, and things that I'm going to pass on to my children unconsciously, and how willing I am to just say bye-bye and let them go.
That's really interesting, because that concept of, is this still serving me? Am I going to continue using and utilizing and feeding these little creatures, as we're calling them, was pretty much the topic of episode 2. We did a lot of talking about boundaries and figuring out how to take space in a shared space and where to put lines and things like that. And I brought it to, like, are the beliefs that you have about your need to take space and your ability to take space an old story, or is it something that's still serving you? So that's like a very small recap of what was episode 2, and I'm sure we'll touch on that down the road sometime. We're not big planners on these episodes, we're more go with the flow as to what we're talking about. And the other thing I was going to say, you were speaking about the creatures and trying to figure it out. So it kind of came to a head. It's funny because we could see it in the kids. There was conflict between a couple of the kids in particular, some from mine and some from her family, not meshing and finding irritation with each other because of, as you were saying, that's how you have done it for however many years, and that's how I've done it for however many years, and them having expectations of each other, like, you should be the same as I am, and you should know what I know, and I should know what you know, and how come you don't? And I'm irritated because you don't act the way that I've been taught to act. Well, yeah, but you don't act the way that I've been taught to act. And I could see it so clearly in the kids. And then Tenshy and I were trying to have conversations around helping the kids sort through their conflicts. And we had what I lovingly called our first fight. I said it to her, I'm like, we had our first fight. And she's like, what? That was not a fight. And I'm like, I know, like, it was not a fight in the traditional sense, but given the relationship that we have, I think that's as close as it's going to get. And she's like, well, I felt like I didn't want to say those things to you. I'm like, that's what I mean. Like, we've never had a point in our relationship where we felt like we didn't want to say things to each other, where we had to harness our boldness and put on our big girl panties and, like, have the conversation. And we had gotten to that point, and we realized that while the kids were having conflicts and expecting each other to do things the way that they know and they've been taught for their lives, we were kind of doing the same thing with each other inadvertently, even though as adults we're very much aware that she's had however many years of living her life, raised the way she was raised, and then all of the life experience till this point. And I have had however many years of living my life and my life experience to this point. And so clearly, logically, in our adult brains, we're different. But we previously focused so much on what was similar about us. I don't think we saw the differences. And now that the only contrast we have in this space is each other, the contrast is so much easier to see.
Yes.
And yeah, we had to sit and, like she said, she had a couple of days where I was like, I don't know where she is. I feel she's just left, like she's just gone. And then this past weekend, or I don't know, like a week ago, I kept leaving. I was like, me and my kids, we're leaving. I even sat with my kids the one time when we left, and they're like, we don't want to go to the river today. And I was like, I'm aware, I don't even know if I want to go to the river today. I just don't want to be in our house right now. Like, I don't feel I can be there. And I came, and then we had this conversation where I said, I don't even feel like I want to be here. She's like, no, me either. That was me like a couple days ago. Because the contrast was so great, and we just kept expecting each other to be more as we are, and it wasn't that way. But like she said, we sat and talked about it.
Yeah.
And opened the space for, like, number one, why does it feel this way? Number two, how do we want it to feel?
Yeah.
And number three, like, we are the ambassadors for our families, modeling for them, the kids who are also having conflicts, how we go from here, if that makes sense. Like, they're having their conflicts, we're having our conflicts, and like mismatched all the way through.
Yeah.
Do we want them to tuck and run because things feel yucky? Or
go through it.
Go through it.
Go through it. And I think for me, when I told you, it's like, don't take it personally. And you said, like, it's so hard not to take it personally. It's like, but it's not about you. It's about, for me, and my experience is about me, because I am seeing parts of me that I am not so comfortable with. And because I am not comfortable with those parts of me, I don't want anybody to see them. And I've been hiding them and pushing them down. And by knowing that that aspect of me was taking me or keeping me farther away from where I want to be as a community, just your family and I, because that's where we're starting.
Yeah.
It is painful, and I had to go through it. And for me, my process to go through it was like, okay, go deep inside, go inside. And of course, when I am within myself, trying to play that game that I play very constantly, and I know it's draining and a lot. It takes a lot on the people that is around me.
Clarify, what is that game?
It's a game of going within myself. So I disconnect very easily from my surroundings.
Yeah.
I do not interact with other people. I want to be in my cave. So it is annoying for me to have to deal with the outside world because I am inside, and I want to stay inside because I am organizing my own shit.
Yeah.
To call it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am clearing my own inner home.
Yeah.
And I want to be concentrated in doing that. And it feels yucky. It feels uncomfortable. It's a kind of stinky. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with this. And, like cleaning the bathroom kind of things. Like, you don't want to do what you don't want to deal with that. But you know that after everything is clean, it's and I become a better version of myself. Mm-hmm. But the process on its own is so painful. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about that actually that night, I think. It's like, when I said the process is so painful, my inner Buddhi, my inner me, my inner wise woman was telling me it's not painful, it's just uncomfortable. And I felt like being encapsulated in something, a hard shell kind of thing, and trying to break that thing that was molding me to be something that I can no longer continue being, because I am expanding. So that shell, that skin needs to be broken in order for me to become something bigger, something more expanded. And I felt like the chrysalis turning into a butterfly. And I feel now like a butterfly, but I know I am not going to remain a butterfly. This freaking butterfly is going to die again, and it's going to turn into another chrysalis and another butterfly bigger than that, because that is a process of life. At least for me, that's what it is. I go through those moments in the spiral where I am this seed, and this teeny tiny seed broke, and the shell broke, and then another shell and another seed, until I become more than I have been. And that process is what I call painful, but it's uncomfortable and at the same time so rewarding. Mm-hmm. It's kind of addictive sometimes for me. It's like, okay, this is yucky, this is feeling uncomfortable, let me go in. Let me go in, let me clear and clean my space inside of myself so I can come out shining and showing another version of myself, a better version of myself. And it's been a new experience for me because so far for the last 12 years, I've always been showing those aspects of myself to my family, like my mom, my brothers, my husband, my in-laws, and that was my circle. But now my circle is expanded. And as I share this with you now, my circle is even bigger now because, like, oh my goodness, I'm sharing parts of me that I've never dared to share with other people. And I think it comes back to the intention of these podcasts, is inspiring people to get to know themselves better. It's inspiring people to wonder what better version of themselves they can become. And I think as we go through those yucky processes and our kids witness the growth in ourselves, and they have the joy to see that new butterfly that you have become, they will dare to do the same with them. And eventually, generation after generation, we will be able to be bigger butterflies, easier to be spotted by each other.
Yes. And I think like another large focus of why we sit here and share our conversations, we have endless conversation between the two of us.
Every time we have a conversation, it's like we have to record this conversation. It's like, I know, but
and we want to share, yes, to inspire and yes to do things, but I think also a huge part of it is we see a lot of content out there that is like, here's how to do this, here's your 7 steps to be more spiritual, here's your 8 steps to be more mindful, here's your how-to guide to do whatever, because we've done it and we're practiced at it and we'll teach you, we'll be so kind as to teach you. But for both of us, it's so important to be like, yeah, we've done some things, you've done some things, join us in our journey as we're literally still walking through it. For us all to know that we're not so different. Like, whatever challenges you are facing in your life and whatever challenges she is facing and myself, they are all different. But at the core, so many of those things at our core, if you dare to go down deep and you dare to go find the roots of those things, are shockingly similar. And it's not a one and done. You don't go down deep and you find the thing and you're like, oh, I have the problem and now I've put it in the garbage or I've washed it and cleaned it all up and I'm good now. I'm ready. Are you ready? I'm perfect. Like, it just doesn't go that way. It is a continuation, exactly as she was just saying. You keep growing. And I think I just feel personally myself that I have come across so much content that is like, I'm finished. Let me tell you how you can be finished also. Let me tell you how to follow my steps to this perfect, successful, unflappable being. Like, I'm Buddha now and it's all fine. Whereas obviously in reality, like, that just never happens. We reach great phases of peace in our life where we are more unflappable and we are more able to keep our calm. But then life introduces you to the next challenge, the next spot where you can choose to grow if that's what you want and if that's what you choose. And it just continuously goes like that. It's cyclical, but at the same time going up. Like, she often uses the word spirals, and you can spiral in many directions, but we talk about how we're spiraling up, both up and both out. Like a beautiful cone as we consistently get our vibration and our elevation and our focus
and perspectives.
Yeah, higher and more enlightened. And the more higher and enlightened you become, things just get bigger. And at the same time, smaller, maybe, like simpler. Yeah. And simpler. We just want to share our journey of going through that with you. We're not at the same level, of course. Do you know what I mean? Her, where she's at, is not the same spot on the spiral that I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of alternate and flip-flop.
And my spiral is actually not the same as yours.
Yeah.
Because that is something, that is another illusion. Is that we are all in the same spiral. No, I am on my own spiral.
Yeah.
And not only this lifetime, is throughout my existence.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's the many lives that my soul is choosing to live now and to experience now and throughout the different dimensions and different existences. It's like this is just one spot on that infinite spiral that is called my existence. This lifetime is just a blink of an eye compared to the many times that our eyes blink, the many infinite moments that our soul chooses to experience. And I think for some people that choose to live in that illusion that we one day will be done, one day will be Buddha, life processes can be so painful and so draining and so annoying and so tiring, because like, when is this going to be done? It's not going to be done. It's never going to be done. And the more you accept that you are never going to be done, the more you open up to that wonder space where like, who am I becoming? Who am I becoming? And every day, and with every experience, with every bumpy road, with every yuckiness, with everything is an invitation for us to expand and to become a better version of ourselves. And to me, that makes life fun. That is what keeps me going, like finding what better version of myself can I find within this seed, and how do I dare to see it becoming. And once I show it to everybody, it's like, okay, this is me. I'm not going to continue hiding myself. This is me. The more I dare to show what I am becoming, the easier it gets, the easier it gets for me to be who I really am. And who I really am, I still don't know who I really am, because every time I have an experience, the one that I had, I am finding parts of myself that I didn't know I had. So I'm always discovering parts of me and aspects of me that make me who I am, and get to know me better. And I like getting to know me better, because talking about boundaries, now I can see, what am I capable of? Even my own boundaries for myself. Give me 1 second. Even my own boundaries for myself. Sometimes I cannot do this. And I cannot go through this. Sebastian, please. I cannot go through this. When in reality is, yes, I can go through this. And yes, it feels yucky. It feels pressure. It feels painful. But I can go through this. It's like being born again and again and again. And I don't know if you have heard of that, or our viewers have heard that. But the first trauma, being born, is actually the first trauma that the human being goes through, because the act of being born is actually painful, not only for the mother, but for the child that is going through the birth canal. So this process of transformation, when you're finding and I'm going inward, is like going back to the womb and come out again a different kind of being, only in this physical body, the same physical body in this size now. And I don't know, it's magical. The more I do it, the more I want to continue doing it.
I think like that is so beautiful, that a whole concept of getting to know yourself, but also enjoying it. I don't know about you, but I interact with so many people in my daily goings about that to me I see as so interesting and so beautiful, and I want to know them. And then when I sit and I try to speak and have a conversation, the conversations are full of these surface things, like what they might be watching on TV or whatever is happening in the mainstream media or on the global scale, or something that's irritating them about somebody that they have in their life. And I have always found it so tricky to fit into those conversations because I would rather sit and talk to anybody about those journeys inward. But I think so many people, either they don't know, they just have never even considered the fact that there is much more to their existence than the surface that they're living on. And then I think there's also people who know that there is more, but they know that their more brings so many creatures and so many monsters and so many scary, large, looming past traumas, or whatever words you would use, that they know there is an option to go in, but they don't want to because they don't feel safe there. And I think somehow being able to share a space consistently that is like, I'm not ever going to make you go in. I'm not ever going to, take your hand and force you somewhere. But if you should ever choose to want to go on a journey within to yourself, know that there is always a space here for you to do so. And proving through your actions and your words over and over again that yes, there is a space, and also that space is safe. Because so many of us think we open the door to our friends, like, oh yeah, my friends always come and talk to me about their problems, or they come and talk to me about their whichevers. And the space that we end up holding for them can be one that's not so safe. Maybe one of judgment rather than helpfulness. Maybe one of, I'm going to tell you what you need to do because you're clearly inept and you don't know what you're doing, which is not the same as helping. Or, I don't know, we have the best of intentions.
Or offering a perspective on that same problem.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? Like,
you have been a space holder for me many times.
Yeah.
And I think I've been a space holder for you many times too. And when we come with that situation that we want to share, that we need to share, I share it, and it's like putting it in front of the table for the participants in that space to see the situation. But I am here and I see this part. But you are there and you see the other part. So offering a different perspective is like, yeah, the situation is here. The situation is a fact.
Yeah.
But I can approach from here because I see an entrance on the situation from here.
Yeah.
But you see another entrance on the other side that I cannot see.
Yeah.
And if we are in a circle, we can approach. We have had this conversation before.
Yeah.
We can all offer different perspectives and different ways of going and living and experience the same situation. So the person leaves the space with more solutions, kind of thing, with more perspectives, with more knowledge on the situation itself.
Yes.
The person leaves more empowered.
Yes.
It's like, it doesn't have to be tackled in one way. It can be tackled in many different ways. And it feels so much easier because it's like everybody is going through that with me, even though it is not about your journey and it's not about mine. But by being a space holders and offering the perspective, knowing that that perspective is free of judgment and free of conditioning, because conditioning is something else that plays against our ability to go through circumstances. But it's a space where, as a community, we support each other. It's like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, and the many different perspectives as people are in that space can offer.
And that takes so much, emotional maturity or awareness, because that situation that you described, a circle, like anyone more than two, even two, but especially when you get into greater numbers, it takes so much surrender and openness
Vulnerability.
all of the people involved. You know, to be the person putting your situation in the middle and saying, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. Obviously, that's a lot of vulnerability, even putting it there. But being open to receive without the lens of all your own conditioning is required. Like, what I mean by that is someone might offer you a solution and you might immediately be offended. I tend to get so offended, as an example, when I interpret someone's attempt to help me as them viewing me as not capable of doing it myself. And so anyone who says something to me, like even my kids will remind me of something that is so obvious to me. They're trying to be helpful. But I am like, do you think that I am mentally challenged and I don't already know this incredibly obvious thing and I'm offended by the help that they're offering me because of my conditioning? So when you put your situation in the middle, you have to somehow, you don't have to, but it works a lot better. If you are able to put down that conditioning and receive everybody's perspectives with their highest of intentions, but then on the other side, everybody offering their perspectives also has to come with those highest intentions. Because if you come to a high council meeting, as I kind of refer to them, and you are like, well, I know how to do this, so I'm going to tell them because like I've done all of it and like I'm the expert on this thing, so I'm going to give them, like, they're so lucky to hear my beautiful expert advice here today. Like, it just comes across
as like arrogance
in a not beautiful way.
Yes.
And circular high council situations like that can be so beautiful, but when there is not surrender and openness on all people present, they don't quite feel the same, I think. And the second thing that I was going to say while you were thinking, not while you were thinking, I don't know what you're thinking most of the time, but while you were speaking, I was realizing that in that circle and looking at the different perspectives, the differences that have been plaguing us as we come to cohabitate one household, two households into one. As we said at the beginning, we started to focus more on the differences and like, oh my gosh, this is not working because you do things like that and I want to do them like this and you do that. And differences. But without those differences, there's no circle. If we are all the same, then I'd come with my situation and we'd sit right next to each other in the same seat and be like, see, it's like this. And you'd be like, yep, it is.
We're
screwed. For real. So like, as much as our differences have been giving us a buttload of grief over the past couple of weeks, like it's just been icky feeling not so greatness. This is like literally, I'm discovering this in this conversation that gratitude for the differences always.
Yes.
Because that's the magic. And yes, I know that. Like, it's not new information to me right now. But this is what we do. Like somehow walking through this experience, we both know many beautiful things, but in the moments we sometimes forget them. Or we sometimes just don't have them at the front of our minds. So it is through these conscious conversations that we can bring them back to the front of our minds that, you know, it is our differences.
Nico, you're still no cool.
Do you need to use the washroom?
Yes.
We have another one.
Can you use the washroom?
I just want to put it on record that these are both her children. But that's probably because
that one is yours.
Yeah, but also that's their. It doesn't matter. No one's listening to this anyways. But it's because it's your bathroom, right? It's on their leg. We can't go anywhere else. I'm gonna make a rule next time. Use the other washroom, mother. So, as much as you know many beautiful things, and I know many beautiful things, as we walk through these journeys, there are times where it's like, did you forget that, like, this is how it is? And you're like, well, no, I didn't forget it, but I guess I wasn't focused on that right now.
I was paying attention. I was distracted.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have been talking about distractions too, and as I think there is a poet actually that says that you are not depressed, you're just distracted.
Yeah.
Distraction plays a big role in our society now,
Oh yeah.
more than ever before. And for us, with this, I think with what we're doing and the challenges that come with it, we also could be called out in distraction for, I will not use the word fear, but as a way of not facing whatever challenge we are going through. So it's not that I forget. It's just I unconsciously
Yes.
chose to look at another side, so I don't see this, that it's so uncomfortable to look at, and it's that part of myself, that creature that comes, and I wanted to just hide, push down, and I don't want anybody to see. I want to show the surface as a holy person, that I have all my shit together, when in reality nobody's shit is together, because we are not meant to have our shit together. We are meant to be this,
Messy.
I was gonna use the word messy,
I know.
but it's the image that is coming to my mind is that bubble that we were talking about this morning in the many different
Well, we might
shapes.
have to explain the bubble.
Yes.
'Cause we were talking about that.
So yeah, it's like a representation of my energetic field being different than yours, even though the energy comes from the same source. We express that energy in many different ways, in many different shapes, many different colors, many different sizes. So the problem or the challenge can come because society, with their cookie cutter system, makes us believe that we are all supposed to be the same. The challenge that most of us have is the system that we live in,
Oh, yes,
and
the
their
cookie
cookie
cutter
cutter system trains us to think that we have to look the same and be the same in order for us to be successful. And when in reality, we are meant to be many different shapes. It's just, as I said, my energetic field will be different than yours, and it will feel differently than yours, because even though we come from the same source, it is meant for me to express that energy and do with that energy differently than yours.
Yeah, you came forward with a different purpose.
Yeah. So yeah, that it's a challenge, and I don't know why we're talking about that.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
This is the end result of being interrupted 6 times probably already.
Yes. It's been a bit staccato, but I think our overall messages from today were a couple of points of our intention of this podcast, which is to inspire, and to inspire you not as someone who is complete and someone who is anywhere remotely even the word above you. No, we want to, like, we have joined hands and we are walking our paths, which are not the same, but we're going together at some way and just meeting up at certain points and saying, you know, how's it going for you? How's it going for me? Let me hold this space for you to help, like you were talking about. It's not necessarily remind you of things you've forgotten, but let me help you to cut the distractions and come back to your true alignment and knowing what you came here to do. And
to stay focused.
And to stay focused on it, yeah. And to be a safe space. Like, we are a safe space for the other. We want to impart that to our kids, that all the adults in this home are a safe space for all of them. And eventually all of each of them, the 5 of them, can be a safe space for the other. And modeling that.
Something else that I think is worth mentioning as a completion of the fact that we were going through differences, and that we were focusing on our differences, and that focus on the difference kept us apart. was not only having the raw conversation and being and daring to come to a middle point and say what's going on. Like we need to talk.
Especially
things are feeling yucky for me, and
neither one of
obviously
us wanted to sit and talk.
Yeah.
On a level. Do you know what I mean? When you're upset with somebody on a level, or you're feeling like hiding, you don't want to go. You're like, I've been trying to hide with all of this, but I'm gonna come bring it all back out and let's sit.
Yeah.
It's not a desire.
Well, I think for me, because I think the worst was me. I think the one that was maybe causing the most disruption in the harmony of the house was me. I had to realize that I had to own my shit, as I call it. It's like my attitude, my behavior, and my wanting to just stay in my room is not cooperating and is not helping in what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Like everybody's feeling, it's not that my behavior is making everybody feel yucky, but at the same time, it's like, for how long am I going to continue being and feeling this way when I know that my energy is like I know I have somehow the ability to shift the energy in the room. Yeah. So if I feel yucky, most of the people around me is gonna feel yucky. But if I am peace, if I am calm, if I am in what I call incoherence, that helps people feel incoherence and more in peace. So I feel and I think I was causing disturbances in the environment, kind of thing, in the force. There were disturbances in the force because I was going through that spiral, and that spiral was like, I shouldn't be doing this, and I shouldn't be doing that, and I shouldn't be, and I shouldn't. Until it's like, why am I acting this way? Why am I doing this way? Where is this coming from? And once I sat and I found the root of it, I was like just grabbing it from the top up, and unrooting that aspect of me that was planted by who knows who, and I don't care who, but there was certainly a seed that planted in my field that it was taking space for me to grow in the way that I am meant to grow, the way that my soul wanted to grow. But getting into the realization that what my behavior is causing, being responsible for the things that I am saying or not saying, the many sides that I do, because, like, even though I told you, don't take it personally, it was like, everybody out of here so nobody can see the shit that I have inside of me. And I came to you and I boldly and very vulnerable said, I am going through this and this and this and that. And I shared all the things that I found within myself. And we also said, like, okay, we are focusing on the differences. Can we go back to focus on what's equal? And then we got somehow to the conversation on the topic of values. It's like, we are here together and we decided to do this leap of faith and moving into a house together because we shared some values. Let's focus on those values, and let's make them stronger, not only in ourselves, but let's just share them with our kids. Let's see and explore the many different ways that we can inspire our kids to live through those values, and see, by focusing on those, what other values can we share. Because values, when I think we talk about that too, it's like values come from the spirit. Yes. They don't come from the mind. And if the energetic field, which is the spirit having the human experience, comes from the same source, then the values are the same. And it's just tapping into the ones that you have active and share them with me, and tapping into the ones that I have active and share them with you, and create a platform, create a space built on those values, going through the unrooting of the ones that are not part of our spirit out. kind of thing. I'm so visual.
Yeah.
I need to describe my visions.
It's a difference. I am not visual, but I enjoy like trying to come with you as you describe your visions. Yes. And talking about, I guess, the upsides and downsides to differences. Because sometimes in the moment, the differences feel like if you weren't here, everything would be fine. Like, not you, but if the differences weren't here, everything would be fine. But then, as we said, when we're going through things and we want assistance, it's the differences that save us. It's the differences that enlighten us and expand us and help us to get bigger so that we are breaking out of our chrysalis mold things.
Yes.
And being able to reach our next level of consciousness, whatever that looks like for us, and our next level of just expanded being. And we can't do that without differences.
Yep.
When everyone's the same, then there's nowhere to grow, right? There's nowhere to grow because everyone's just in a giant echo chamber your whole life. Yep, you're right. Yep, you're right. Yep, keep on keeping on. Yeah, you're right. Forever and ever. How boring. Boring.
I think this is a beautiful way of finishing this episode with that image in mind, because it brings me to that thing that we were interrupted by, like gratitude. Gratitude for the differences. Gratitude for the differences somehow takes me to honoring the differences, and the honoring of the difference takes me to loving my differences. And when I own my differences and I love them and I honor them and I am grateful, all that I can take it to me and I can integrate it in my being. So I can be grateful for who I am, and I can be grateful and I can honor who I am, and I can love myself.
Yeah.
And I think at the end, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and then like next part of that, I was going to say the next level to that, but as important, you can integrate it and it helps you to love yourself, and it also helps you to hold love, truly unconditional love and respect for every other being, because we honor and we love all of our differences.
Yes.
And so if we can love the things that are different about us, then we can also love the things that are different about every being that we come into contact with.
Yes.
Love them, love the differences. Doesn't mean we like all their choices, just as a little clarifier. But
yeah, loving the creatures. Love your creatures.
Yes, and don't hide them in the corner. They tend to just
Love
get bigger.
your
They like
creatures.
the darkness. They thrive in the darkness. So bring them to the light and see how they look in the light.
Yeah, I see the creatures and the image, talking about images, like when I talk about creatures and I was describing the creatures, they look like little rambunctious children hiding in the corners, like, look at me, and I'm like, shh, don't say anything. Look at me, no, shh, don't say anything. But yeah, why do I have to keep quiet? Why do I have to ask them to keep quiet and not come up if they are part of who I am? So by embracing our creatures and accept them, being grateful, honoring them, loving them, integrate them in your being is like the explosion that comes out is just love.
Yes.
Love.
Well, and that knowledge and understanding that those creatures are there because they served you so well at a time. Do you know what I mean? When they came into existence, they were exactly what you needed. And maybe you don't need them as they are anymore, and you can leave some of them to, I don't know.
You
I'm
can
not
just
a
let them
visual
go.
person.
You can just let them go. So like, you know what?
But they're not there because they forced their way into your life. You invited them in, you birthed them, whatever you want to say. They came there because they served you so well. I was thinking about it when you were talking about uprooting your things, like weeding a garden.
Yeah.
But I don't like to think of them as weeds, because I don't even like to think of weeds as a concept in general. It's just that flower, when you planted it, was beautiful for you. And you grew it and you nurtured it, and it served you as well. And then now you look at that flower and your tastes have changed. And you're like, this flower does not serve me anymore. It doesn't bring me joy. So I'm going to take this flower out of my garden, and I'm going to make space for what I do like and what serves me and brings me joy and happiness now.
Yep.
But so many of us look at creatures and the things, our shadows, as these icky, yucky things. We even describe them as like icky, yucky. But in reality, those are parts of who we have been and where we have been that served us at a certain time. And so gratitude for them.
Yeah.
And space and grace that it's okay to let them go.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have your tastes change or your opinions change or your needs change and your choices change.
Yes. Because we're always changing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think this is going to be it for this episode.
Yeah. Thank you for bearing with us.
It's been a journey.
It has.
On its own, recording this episode with many different interruptions that we have had.
And even getting to recording of this episode has been quite a task, but I'm proud of us. I'm very grateful for you for finding time and just for diving boldly in with me to just do this today.
Yes.
And being here.
Thank you.
We almost just wore our pajamas and said, to hell with it. Let's just go. But anyways, we will see you hopefully very soon for whatever we're going to talk about next time. But we really appreciate your listening today. And we hope that you do feel that somehow we can be a space for you to discover whatever you need to discover, or we can inspire you to go to your people that you have in your reality, who will hold a space for you to discover what you need to discover. And
and if you have anything to add to this conversation, leave your comment.
Yes.
We would love to hear from you. We love reading from you. Thank you to all of you that have left comments in the previous episode. It's really exciting hearing other people's perspectives behind the camera. So thank you so much and see you next time.
Yes, actually, one more tiny thing. I forgot that episode 2 never aired, and at the beginning of episode 2 I said, like, I was taken aback by the response that we got after episode 1. Like she just said, there were so many messages to both of us individually on our accounts and on the video and the places that we put it. And it was very, very beautiful to hear from all of you. And to see that we are not alone in this, which is the message we're trying to say. But I didn't get to say that because I said it in an episode that didn't quite make it to your ears. So
yes,
we are signing off before someone else comes and bangs on the door.
And we are epically distracted or interrupted again. So see you next time. Thank you so much.
Bye.